All right, so I became a full-time trap producer in the span of 12 months, and now I'm a top 2% producer with over 126 million streams and 9 top 50 records. In this video, I'm just gonna walk you through the steps that I took to get there so that you can hopefully do the same exact thing. Now, step number 1 is to get good at making beats first. So what I did here was that I started making 5 to 10 beats a day and solely focusing on the inputs rather than the outputs. What I mean by that is that it's going to be very difficult if you consistently focus on the outputs and try to make something that is good. Because I think it's Ed Sheeran that said this, but creativity and writing, he's talking about it from a songwriting perspective, but I'm talking about it from a beat making perspective, which is that he views songwriting as turning on a dirty tap. So when you turn on a dirty tap, what's going to happen is that, he says it, shit water is going to flow through, right? But after you had that tap on for a while, what's going to happen is that eventually clean water is going to start coming out. And it's the same thing here, same exact process, same exact mindset about this. So essentially what you want to do is that you want to make 5 to 10 beats a day, because that will allow you to get rid of the bad stuff, like the bad ideas, and then start coming up with the good ideas. And I'm not lying when I'm saying this, like I have literally made over 3,200 beats. And I think my first beat that got big, like charted, I think it was beat number 2000 or something like that. So it takes a lot of reps, but if you commit to making these 5 to 10 beats a day daily, not only are you going to be able to like better find the good ideas, but you're also going to be making so many beats that you're also going to get just a lot better by doing that. So when you're going about this, you're going to go insane if you focus on if the beat is good or bad. You're going to go insane. So rather, instead of considering a good beat as a win, just consider you making the beat as the win. And that way you can win every day and not go insane. So yeah, that's the first thing. Then, second thing about making good beats is that you want to make music that the market wants. So the way that you do that is by just actively listening to songs that are popping, songs that are big, songs that are working. So for example, what I used to do is, or what I still do, is top 50. So you can just go to Spotify, search top 50, then sort by playlists, and you'll get this list. And what this is, it's a list of all the charting, like the Spotify charts in almost every country. And I'm pretty sure that you can search just about any country here and get it. So what you want to do, if we go back here, is that you want to listen to the top 50 charts that are relevant to you. So for example, I'm in Sweden. So if I wanted to make people or music for Swedish people, I'd listen to this one and the countries that influence Swedish music. So for example, just by like being in the Swedish industry, I know that we're influenced by France, Netherlands, the UK. So I know that. So then I listen to them too, to figure out like, okay, what is working here? And then the way I do that is by just going on the playlist and literally spending like an hour each day. And you can do this whenever you have pastime, like when you have time over, when you're not really doing anything anyways. You can spend that time listening to the top 50 charts to get a good understanding of what's going on in the market. So right now, like around Christmas time, top 50s are kind of messed up because there's so many Christmas songs. But in other times of the year, it's going to be completely fine. And you can just listen through here, listen through each and every song, and then just take note of the sound selection, the drum patterns, the tempos, the chord progressions, and kind of just try to mentally just take note of everything, because it's going to help you in your production. And that's what I've done. And I've done that like obsessively to the point where everything I listened to was the top 50, which I don't recommend. But I definitely recommend spending 30 minutes to an hour each day just listening to the top 50 charts to get an understanding of what works and what doesn't. And then when you listen to these songs, you want to continuously just ask yourself, like, okay, why is it that people like this? Even when you come across songs that you don't particularly like yourself, just listen to it and try to imagine, like, okay, why do people like this? What is it about this that is so good? Then the second thing is that, for example, not every single genre is going to be on the top 50 charts. For example, right now, hip hop is even a little bit down. There's not going to be as much on the charts. So if you want to figure out what works in the hip hop scene, just listen to big artists. And then you can use these editorial playlists like Rap Caviar. I'm not saying that Rap Caviar is the best music ever or whatever, that's completely subjective. But what I'm saying is that they've collected all the big artists and you can listen to them. And there's different playlists like this for each and every country. So if you're in France, I know that France has one, Germany has its own one, UK has its own one. So I definitely recommend just going through this as well and listening to the styles that you hear, the sound selection, the chord progression, the drum patterns. Drum patterns is a huge thing, the tempos, and just really internalize everything that you hear on these charts. Then the next 2.0 version of that is that you start using big songs as references. And what I recommend when using references is that you just find a playlist or find an artist that you want to listen to, find an album, just listen through the songs 10 to 20 minutes before you're making beats. So you just spend some time listening through all of the songs, and then you pick the reference that really inspires you. Because if you try to force references, it's not really going to be good, and it's going to be hard, and you're just not going to like it, and so on and so on. But if you use a reference that you really vibe with, and that you kind of want to think, when you play the reference, you want to think like, I wish I made this. Then you know you have the right reference. So that's like the 3.0 or 2.0 version of this. So you make 5 to 10 beats a day. You focus on the inputs rather than the outputs. You make music that the market wants by listening to the top 50 charts, listening to big artists, and use references that you vibe with. And if you do that 5 to 10 times a day, you're gonna get really good at it. And with this also, don't depends on, of course, your workflow and where you're at in your journey, but I wouldn't even recommend don't even try to make all of them good, and don't spend too much time on them, because some beats are just going to turn out good, some beats are just going to turn out bad. And instead of spending a huge amount of time trying to salvage a bad beat, you could just spend that time moving on, finishing it, going to the next one that might be better. And that at least has worked very well for me. Now, step number 2, once you have pretty solid beats, know what the market wants, you've been doing it for a while, then we move on to step number 2, which is that you want to get good at collabing. Because the main thing here is you can't be successful without collaboration. I've yet to see it happen. Or, well, probably there's some, type beat guy out there that just doesn't talk to anybody and is still widely successful. But for most of us, we need collaboration in order to be successful. And what I can say about collaboration, at least from my own experience, is that collaboration is a skill just like making beats. So what you want to develop is the skill of collabing. So you want to be easy to work with, you want to be efficient, you want to be punctual, and able to deliver a great product. And it's one thing to just sit at home and make 5 to 10 beats a day, but it's a completely other thing to actually work with somebody and take their directions and make something that they want. Maybe you get handed references to you and you need to make that. That's a completely different thing, and you want to get good at doing those things because it's gonna really, really, really pay off. So what I did here was that first of all, I didn't really know anybody, and I'm glad I didn't. I didn't have any big connections. I didn't have any good connections because I would probably just end up burning all the connections I had because I wasn't good. But what I did was that I started with friends and small artists. So to do that, I literally just went through all of my contacts, and I did not make a list, but I recommend making a list like this to keep a track. I did make a list, but I did it in my notes app. but I recommend making a list like this. You can just use an Excel sheet and put the names of the people here, the platform which you have them here. So if it's like text, you'll put their phone number. If it's Instagram, you'll write down Instagram. If it's Discord, whatever, you write down Discord, Snapchat, whatever really. So you just want to collect all of the people you know. And when I say that, I really mean everybody. Like I reached out to people who didn't even make music. I didn't even think that they knew anybody, but they actually knew people that they could connect me with, and I could start working with them. So definitely, like, just make a list, collect all of your contacts, and reach out to them. Now, when you reach out to them, all you got to do is just like, hey, what's up? How are you doing? Long time no speak. They answer something back. Talk to them for a couple of messages, and then you can just be like, hey, by the way, I'm really going all in on music. You don't happen to know anybody that wants beats or needs a producer or whatever. That's literally what I did. The other thing you can do, if you know they're an artist, you can just be like, hey, what's up, man? How are you doing? Okay, nice, great. By the way, I'm really going in on producing. I've heard your stuff. It's really nice. I want to make you some beats. What kind of beats are you looking for? Like, that easy. You can just do that. And I really recommend going through this because, first of all, if you are experienced and you've been doing this for a while, but you might not just have like gone all in yet, you're probably actually going to have a lot of contacts and probably even some really good contacts, which you can just activate by reaching out. Secondly, even if you don't have any contacts like me, you're going to be able to find people that you can work with, because chances are that if you are a music guy and you've been making music for a while, you're going to be knowing other music people. They might not be big, they might not have much going on, but you're going to be knowing somebody. And then you can actually reach out to them and start working with them. Now, you might question, hey, Alex, what do I do if I have no friends? Well, in that case, you find them. So what you can do to get your start is just like the classic Instagram hashtags. So hashtag unsigned rapper, hashtag whatever, really, doesn't really matter, hashtag rapper. Then you find them and you reach out on Instagram with a personalized message. Same thing here, you can also go to Spotify playlists. So for example, here's an underground playlist, and there's gonna be like, you'll be able to find small artists. There's also big artists here too, of course, but you'll also be able to find small ones. See, 1.6K, not too much. You can reach out on Instagram, and as well, once you find one small artist, you can just go to fans also like, press show all, and boom, you got a bunch of other people. And here it's like, it doesn't really matter who it is. You just want to get somebody to work with. Start making music with other people so that you can get good at collabing, because it's actually a skill. And it's one of the most valuable skills you can have, because if you're good to work with, it makes everything so much easier. If you're difficult to work with, you'll be fighting an uphill battle, because what really matters here isn't your music is pretty much irrelevant. Or it's not irrelevant, but it doesn't matter that much. Once you hit a certain baseline of quality, what it really is about is just getting the right beat to the right person and having them enjoy working with you. So that way you're going to get more and more and more opportunities. So yeah, but this is what you do if you don't have anybody. If you exhausted your warm network, you reach out to everybody, nobody's there, then you go for Instagram and Spotify playlist. But don't sleep on this. Don't feel weird about reaching out. It's whatever, just reach out. Nobody cares anyways. And start getting some work in. And at this stage, I just want to say that I did not even ask for money, because I just viewed it as learning. Because even though I didn't get paid in money, I viewed it as I'm getting paid in experience and I'm learning. And that's just the approach that I took at this stage. Now, if you want to learn more about producing full-time, then I have a whole community dedicated to that. It's free, by the way. So in here's the community. You can see people are getting wins, People are sharing valuable loops, resources, preset banks, stuff like that. Everybody's having a great time. We're doing a feedback call each week, and it's just a nice vibe overall. So definitely recommend you checking that out if you're serious about producing full-time. Now, step number 3 is to create opportunities. Now, the thing about this is that your brand is everything. And what decides your brand is who you know, what you've done, and how you present yourself. I feel like most people only think of brand as this, as how you present yourself. And how you present yourself is like the content online. I don't know, your fit pics, whatever. Or like the funny reels you do, or the high quality reels that you post. I think that's how most people think about, okay, that is how you present yourself. However, I feel like people very much overlook this, like who you know, like the connections and what you've done, like the placements, the releases that you have. This matters far more than this. But the easiest and the first thing that you do want to fix is this. So how you present yourself. So the first thing that you want to do is fix your Instagram. And I did this myself. So you want to remove low quality posts. Low quality posts are basically like just the black screen recordings, crusty looking Android images, these weird like AI cover arts, stuff like that. Like you want to get rid of that. Then you want to replace it with content that shows proof, process, and personality. Now, proof, that is stuff like chart placements. If you get a plaque, you post that. If you get 1 million streams, you post that. That is proof. Then we have process. Process is a video of you in the studio. Process is a picture from you in a session. Things like that. That is process. And then personality. Personality is just like, that's just random images, lifestyle images, stuff like that, that maybe you're out, maybe you're, I don't know, you're in a DJ booth sometime. Then you take a picture, you post it. Because it gives the profile a little bit of life and you look like a cool guy, whatever, you know? But this really, this helps, and it makes your profile look good. And you want to create, like, even if you take these pictures, you want it to look good. So you want to create a high quality and aesthetic feed. Now, I'm going to show you my old IG. And to be honest, like, I'm not the most aesthetic Instagrammy guy ever. Could honestly have done a better job with this, but this works. So I'm going to show you mine, which isn't like amazing. And then I'm going to show a really amazing profile, and you're going to know what all right looks like, and you're going to know what amazing looks like, and just know that you can kind of put yourself in the middle of that. So yeah, here's my old Instagram. This is what it looked like. So pseudo pictures, releases most importantly. Then I have some lifestyle images, stuff like that. Pretty basic. Then my new Instagram, which is kind of under construction. Haven't been using it. So yeah, same thing here. I have some nice studio pictures, nothing crazy. I haven't even edited these, but they look pretty high quality. Then I put my beats, boom, like that. So I still post my beats, but I just don't fill my feed up with these, but rather I just make the slideshows like this. Then proof, of course, top 1% of producers, 170 million streams, and all of that good stuff. So that's proof. And in the old Instagram, the proof was the releases and stuff like that. Then we have this cool guy, which I think have an amazing looking Instagram profile. So you can see, like, this looks very aesthetic. Like, you take him seriously. Like, if I see this, I'm gonna think like he's a established producer / artist and is already world famous. Like, this is awesome. So things like this, if you can just get somewhere in between, you're good. But like, make it look nice, make it look good, show yourself. Don't just be completely anonymous, because then what's going to do most of the heavy lifting is the proof that you have. So the more proof, the better. Now, the way that we get this proof is by creating opportunities. And the way that we create these opportunities is through comments story reposts, and DMs. What you want to do is that you want to connect with people connected to big artists. And the reason that you want to connect with people who are connected to big artists is because you want to start working in the right direction. Now, the reason that I've put so much emphasis on working with people who are connected to bigger artists is because it's hard to blow up with small artists. It also depends on how small, but it's really hard. And also, small artists don't really have money, because think of it like this. If they're working a 9 to 5 and you want to charge, I don't know, 1K for your beats, they're not going to be able to give you that, or they might be able to give you that, but it's almost like it's a bad investment for them, because they're going to release that song and it's going to get like 1,000 streams. So there's a cap for how much you can be earning with smaller artists, whereas when you go to bigger and bigger and bigger, there's more money to be made. Now, with that said, this doesn't have to be the biggest artist. I see it as if they have 500K to 1 million monthly listeners, you're good. You can make a really good living working with those types of people. But in the beginning, you won't be able to reach them because you don't have strong enough brand. So for that reason, you want to connect to smaller artists who are connected to the big artists. And just to be clear, it doesn't just have to be artists. It can be engineers, it can be managers, it can be producers as well. But you want to connect with people who are accessible to you for the level that you're at, that are connected to somebody bigger, because then you start working in that direction. And the way that you go about this is that you literally just go to a big artist page and then you look through their followers or the people that they're following. So you look through that and you try to find smaller artists that looks accessible to you that you can then reach out to. And that this can be a little bit of a tedious process. So what I recommend here is that you spend like 20 to 30 minutes just finding people. That way you can kind of batch things and make it more efficient. So 20 to 30 minutes just finding people, put them in a list, and then you spend like an hour-ish reaching out. And the more reach outs you do per day, the better. I would say anywhere from like 25 to 100, you're golden. Then we have the all reliable for producers. Of course, if you want to find producers, songwriters, people like that, go to Genius. You go to whichever artist it is that you want to work with. You look at the writers, the producers, all of that good stuff. But I would say that do not sleep on artists. Like even smaller artists can mean a lot, because they can help you connect you with the bigger artists. I've seen this myself, and that is mostly what I did. And that's mostly what other people I know have done as well. Because if you can really lock in with certain artists, you will eventually lock in with their friends. And if they're big, you'll be able to work with them. Now, when it comes to this, you want to do comments. So as I mentioned, you just want to create opportunities by commenting. Like if you're on somebody's page, you comment on their posts, you drop some fire emojis. Ideally, you drop something more like specific that stands out a little bit, without overdoing it, of course. You do that, then you can do story reposts as well. I ripped this from a guy that reposted this. But yeah, so you can just do story reposts like that, tag them, show love. Like if somebody has a release, like for example, let's say an artist just released a song, you can just post that on your story, tag them, say like, hey, fire. That's also going to go to their inbox. They're going to reply. They're going to be like, oh, thank you. And then you can guide the conversation from there to giving them beats. Same thing with producers. Like if you see a producer, perhaps he posts his Muso page, has a lot of streams, repost that, say, hey, congrats. Stuff like that. The comments as well. You gain recognition. It makes it more likely that people will actually respond once you go ahead and DM them. Now, when it comes to DMs, there's no need in overthinking it too much, because there's really no magic DM that you can send that will instantly just make everybody respond and want to work with you. Unfortunately, there's not. You just don't want to be like super copy paste about it. And even like making certain templates that are supposed to be personalized templates, kind of defeats the purpose. So what I do if I were reaching out to somebody, I just go on their page, find something that stands out to me, and mention it. So like, if he did this, I don't know, I don't even know this language. Okay, so he says 7 p.m. mixtape trailer. Then I just check out the mixtape trailer, reach out, and just say something about the mixtape trailer. Hey man, just saw the latest trailer for your mixtape. Sounds fire. And then I just like tell him like, hey, I got some beats for you. It depends on, I would also say it depends on like the size of the artist. If the artist is like really small, you can just reach out like, hey, really like this song. I fuck with what you're doing. What kind of beats are you looking for? If it's somebody more established, you kind of want to be more straight to the point and be like, hey, where can I send beats? Alternatively, just send it with a link inside of the DM so that you get straight to the point. But the closer you guys are in level, I hate saying it like that, but that's essentially what it is. The closer you guys are, the less like, the more friendly you can be and you can actually build a real connection. Whereas the bigger the gap is, the more like straight to the point you want to be. But then as you get higher and higher, it's basically just like shooting a lottery ticket. So that's why I really recommend like connecting with people connected to bigger artists and build real relationships. Because then, for example, if you're in the studio with all their friends, you're gonna meet the bigger artists eventually. And even if it's like online, eventually they're gonna be recommending you, and they're gonna, or he's gonna hear their songs and be like, wow, this sounds really good. Like, who's this guy? Or like you make one of his small artists' biggest song. It's gonna be like, hey, who is this guy making all these fire beats? And he'll be open to work. Now, as I was saying, there's no magic DM. So this is a post from a guy in my community. Any tips on DMing artists? Now, here's what I said here. So here's my take. Don't overthink it. Yes, of course, you want to build a little bit of rapport. You don't just want to like spam people and be rude like that or whatever. But most of the rapport will be built by delivering great music and being easy to work with. So the first like interaction message, you essentially just want to find out what kind of music they want, or if they're bigger, just kind of figure that out on your own and send them stuff. But the best is always to ask. But for some people, you just want to be quick and straight to the point. But the real rapport and relationship is by delivering great stuff to them and being easy to work with. So just like open with a personalized message, figure out what they're working on, or just ask like what kind of beats they're looking for right now. And then tell them that you'll make those types of beats for them. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. And I wouldn't make it more complicated like that. Because think of it like this. If somebody who's big reaches out to you, they can say whatever the fuck, and you're going to want to work. So it's not really about what you say, it's just about who you are. Now, here it's the same thing. Focus on inputs rather than outputs. If you focus on the outputs here, you're going to go insane. Because most people, they won't respond. And that's fine. That's the game we play. Most people won't respond. But these results compound. And the way that they compound is by, let's say you send 100 outreaches. In a good scenario, 10 people get back to you. Then you deliver great music to those people. You build relationships with those people and you work with those people. Then you get releases. Those people will also start following you. Those people will be connected to big artists, big producers, or they'll be connected to other like quote unquote mid-level producers, artists. They'll be connected to them. They'll start following you. And then once you go ahead and hit up somebody else in their network, they'll see that, oh, he has releases with my friend. He's followed by my friend, or he's followed by multiple, or he's followed by many of my friends. And then they'll be like, okay, let me check this guy out. Then they check out your profile. You look good. You look serious. You're posting some beats on there as well. they like it, boom, then they might respond. But that means that results really compound. And in the beginning, that's when it's the hardest. But that's when you really got to keep going. So results compound, but the beginning is the most difficult part. So you just got to get over that. And that is where you're going to be doing a bunch of work without really seeing anything for it. But just know that it's going to pay off in the long run, even if it doesn't feel like it in the short term. So when you're doing this, you want to start small and accessible. I'm not saying like, oh, don't shoot your shot, but it's kind of wasted time. Like if you spend 3 hours just hitting up the biggest artists, like if you just spend 3 hours hitting up the biggest artists that you can come up with, it's essentially going to be a waste of time because it's going to lead nowhere. So just start small and accessible and accept that there's no shortcuts. Not really. You're going to have to work your way up. And speaking of that, you start small and accessible, and you work your way up by leveraging the opportunities that you get. So, for example, you reach out to somebody who's connected to a bunch of bigger artists or mid-level artists. You get a follow from them. Boom, you got a mutual follower. Of course, you got to work with them. But then you hit up his friends. Because then they're going to see, okay, my friend follows him. Okay, I might give this a chance. I might respond. If you get a release, reach out to everybody involved in the release. If there was a second producer involved, if there was an engineer, if there was a feature or whatever, if it's an album, for example, and you're on an album, perhaps you have one of the songs on the album, then reach out to everybody involved, because that gives you a window of opportunity where it's like, it's fresh, it's hot, we're just involved in a project. Reach out to every single person involved in that project. And you basically just want to be proactive instead of reactive. So if you're proactive, that means that you're taking action and you're bringing things into existing. Whereas reactive is something happens and then you react to it. So you want to be proactive. And like, you send the messages, you do the outreaches, you make this happen. Because what's going to happen is if you do this and you keep working your way up, you leverage each opportunity that you get, you make bigger and bigger songs with bigger and bigger people. Eventually, you're going to start having people reaching out to you wanting to work. And that's when this really gets easy. That's when this gets fun. But up until that point, you have to kind of force this into reality and actually make it happen. And that means like having people that don't respond, having people that goes through halfway through, having to follow up, having to send a lot of beats for an extended amount of time without an artist using anything until they finally do. But once they do, that's your window of opportunity, and then you leverage that for more. So for example, you might have to send out beats for months consistently to an artist before they use it. I've done that myself. Like you might have to send out 4 months before they actually use it. But then once they use it, perhaps the song goes well, then they want more. Or the song goes okay, they're not saying anything, but then all of a sudden you have that release and you can leverage it to get more by reaching out to everybody in their network, everybody else involved, like show that on social media and just show that, okay, I got shit going on. And you leverage that to get more and more and more. So yeah, now the way that you turn this into an actual plan is by simply staying consistent. That is the most important thing. If you stay consistent, this will work. However, you have to stay consistent, even when it gets hard. So the way that I found is the easiest to stay consistent is by building habits through creating a routine. So essentially, there's like 3 actions that you want to take. Sure, this is very simplified. Of course, there's going to be a little side quest, subtasks, whatever. But I might actually add one thing, which is if you're like meeting people in person, you also want to take sessions. But you want to make beats, post on Instagram. I would even like replace this because you could just do shit in the sessions. But yeah, make beats and take sessions. Want to post on Instagram and reach out to people. That is all you have to do. That's literally it. But you have to do it. So what I do is that I set a quota for each task, like how many of this thing am I going to do today? So how many beats am I going to make? Is it 5? Is it 10? Figure that out. Then figure out how much time do I need to make that happen. Then it's like, okay, how many posts am I going to make? Okay, it's 1 post a week. All right, cool. How much time will that take me? Okay, 30 minutes, an hour-ish. Cool. Then reach out to people. Okay, how many do I want to reach out to? Okay, I want to do 50 in a day. All right, cool. How much time will that take me? Then you kind of figure those things out. And then literally block out time for it. I really recommend like blocking it out in a calendar, because that way you'll be able to develop a routine. And when things are routine, you'll be able to stick with them. So then you know, like, okay, every day I get off work, it's straight to the computer to make my beats. And as soon as I'm done with my beats, it's time to start reaching out. And then every Monday I make a post before I go to work, whatever. That will help you stay consistent with this and take these daily actions over an extended amount of time. And if you take massive action and you do like a really high volume of outreaches, and you do your best to deliver the best quality product to people, you're easy to work with, you're fast, you're making edits fast, you're just a really good guy, you're just great to work with, this can happen within 12 months. I've seen it myself. I would say that I were at this stage. So when I got to this stage, it took me about a year before I could go full time with this. So if you just take these actions that are talked about in this video and you execute on them day in, day out, you'll eventually get there.